2x2, 7 rows deep. And rolling up to the start-finish line.
little bit off track as the inside as they can. Saber making an amazing dive into turn 1, and the electroshocks off. Eggful gets the move, but MNU trying to take a move.
Big contact from 5 different punches.
Big incident with Snowdog, our leader.
As we head into town row, it's a big crash. It's a big crash between the two title contenders.
Welcome everyone to the final round of the GT Legends series here at Simufur, and welcome to 2001. We are at the old layout of the Hockenheimring. It's going to be very interesting to see how things are going to be here tonight. Joining me tonight will be Wolfin, as well as at the commentary booth, as well as Polly at the broadcasting booth. So, good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's a pretty quiet day so far. But it's not as quiet. It's a lot quieter than what's going on here at Hockenheim as we follow along now with MNU as they head toward, I believe that is the Clark chicane. Bear in mind, with this being the 2001 layout, the section that was removed, the very long section later on the line, we're running it now. And I'm probably one of that weird, like, I'm one of those weird people that kind of was like, I kind of missed this setup, or this loadout for Hockenheim. I wish they just made it an option. That's not fun. That wasn't ideal. But
yeah, definitely not ideal, like you were saying.
I was saying that, I'm one of those weird, like, historical people that kind of was like, I really wish that they, at the very least, had just kept the track around, but it made it like an alternate layout of some sort. But that's just me being me.
Well, I'm even though I'm pretty old, I didn't actually get to experience this layout at Hockenheimring, so it's definitely my first time seeing it here. But you can see here drivers are pretty trying to inch out every bit of the track limits here. There's definitely a few places that the drivers may have the advantage of if they accidentally cut the track, but the stewards are gonna keep a very close eyes on things to make sure that people don't. But I mean, unfortunately, they don't keep this layout. But as if you said just now that if it's gonna be a quiet night, you just jinxed it, because I got a feeling it's gonna be chaos today. Currently, right now, there's 20 drivers on track, so I feel like it's gonna be like last week again.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'd say. Well, I wouldn't say it's gonna be like. Well, I wouldn't say it's going to be like last week. Maybe it will be a little bit more spicy because we have more chicanes and more flatline areas. But I don't, unless something like horrific happens off the start, I don't particularly see there being like too much chaos. There'll be a little bit of chaos, but with how many straights and kind of just how I guess you could say forgiving this track is compared to the others. I don't. It's going to be a lot of drafting. I think is going to be the big thing.
Yeah, looking at the track map, from what I can see here, it's pretty forgiving with the fact that there's just so much long straights here. Turn 1 to turn 2 is such a very, very long straight, but that's what these GT Legend cars are for. They're made for the straights. They are pretty Le Mans styles, I would say. So it should be right around where they are. But there's definitely some advantages of some of these cars that might get. Some of them definitely have more power than others. But we definitely have these turrets trying to balance things out with the balance of performance. But the turrets can't do so much. Some of them are pretty good at the corners. Some of them are good on the straights. But you can't just dumb down everyone's power, or else things will get a bit weird as they come into the final sector with turn 12 to turn 16, a bit more familiar to what we have in the modern day. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see how these cars react to different sectors of this track.
Yeah, with all these high-speed sections, it's going to be very easy for somebody to kind of just miss their braking marker and for the cars to lock up. And it could cause a little bit of incidents as we see the checkered flag is out for practice. We will soon be getting on to qualifying, which is a half-hour qualifying session for those who are new. And that is going to be where we're going to start seeing a lot of those times. I don't think early on we're going to see some baseline times early on, and then later on things are probably going to start heating up. We'll have to wait and see. And it's going to be pretty exciting, I think. This is a kind of a nice place to end off this really fun series. We got the experienced cars that we haven't seen for years, and just real pure racing, and it's been a lot of fun, I say.
It's definitely a trip down memory lane for some of us that grew up with these cars, but and also kind of showcase the rose-tinted glasses that we have on these amazing cars, because it's just nice to hear how good they sound, and it's nice to see how you can see them back again. But that's the beauty of sim racing. You don't need to spend millions upon millions of dollars just to get these cars racing again. We can just have them, enjoy them through our own comfort at home. But yeah, it's just nice to see these drivers just enjoying how insane these cars drive, of how and it's really a testament how good some of these mods have been, because they really showcase how raw they are, how insanely hard these drivers need to make sure to stay focused, to make sure that they get a good lap time here. And racing at Hockenheim is pretty good. The long straights will definitely be a good time for the drivers to just relax, let the car do its job, stretch its wings before coming down into chicanes. The only problem here is going to be like Monza again. Will the drivers pile up at the chicanes? Definitely not a good idea to do so, but with how these old circuits are, long straights with a few chicanes, things might get a bit spicy in some of these.
I agree, but unlike Monza, where the first set of chicanes was like it was further back from the launch, it's launch and then immediate turn one, which is going to bunch up the field, going down to the first straight toward the Clark chicane, and I foresee if it does bunch up, I foresee that kind of thinning out kind of before the first chicane, but it won't be as unforgiving. I guess I should say it'll be a little bit more forgiving. I guess you could say it won't be as chaotic. I guess is the best way to put it.
Well, I feel like the cars might start to go single file, but if you're really eager to get positions, you might have a small incident at turn 2, given that as the chicane starts to show up, you have incidents where it's kind of like Monza, where people survive turn 1 but don't survive turn 2. So we just have to make sure that drivers stay alive and not lock up, because you can see here Vossi locking up here and there, especially the front tires when they come through corners that have a little bit of camber, and also just have not as much control on their brakes, as you can see here. So they definitely have to tune it out until they get a little bit too aggressive on things, but it should be fine unless things go south. They can go very south very fast here.
Yeah, and I feel like if you make a mistake here, you're not going to have a lot of room to fix the problem, I guess is the best way to put it. You lock up, you're either going in two places, either into the wall or into somebody else, and that's where things are going to start to get interesting as we follow along now with F-Spirit heading out of, I believe that is the Clark chicane, heading toward turn 5 as qualifying has started.
Qualifying's going to be a bit, apparently, but it seems that that was turn 8. We'll look at the standings for now, though, as we wait for some of the updates in the background. Sarah's been P1 pretty strong, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. Sarah really all Sarah has to do at this point, aka Wushel. All they have to do, show up, not get into any major incidents, and cruise to an easy championship. Well, I wouldn't say an easy championship. Cruise to a championship. Let's go with that.
last week, Wushel has made a very good run. Made it look very easy though in the Murcielago. We'll have to see later how that car really fares here at Hockenheimring. But behind them, MNU, Xavier Rank at P2, as well as Luke Parker, Zzors at P3, tied for second and third place. MNU currently in P2 for countback. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two fight for positions tonight. It seems like Zzors might have the upper hand, but we'll see later as qualifying and race happens in a bit. Arcado in fourth in the Ferrari, followed by Drift 340 in P5. A pretty strong P1 to P5, I would say.
Yeah, actually, I would say P1 to P2 to P7 fairly tight between each other as sorry. P2 to P7 very close. You can look at P6 and 7, only a difference between 1 point. P4 and 5 are tied. P2 and 3 are tied. Really, it could come down to anyone for the
championship.
P7. So yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty there for good for championship. So we're looking back next page. It is very close, as you said. Then it's outside from Wushel at P1, so it's good to see that the competition is pretty strong. But as you can see here, drivers at the back, not much big of a gap between all these drivers. Sidecar P14, and then Jakub at P15. I think that is at 18 points. Espir is still tight for 18 points at P16 though. So definitely a few places that we can see points. Driver shuffle up and down the grid. So it's going to be nice to see pretty good points here. But as you see here, Adam at P31 will be the last driver that has points here. There's a few drivers that might get points if they're here, but looking back at the drivers at the back of the grid, I don't think some of them have not been racing here for a while, unfortunately. But it's nice to see that we have drivers that participated with us, and it's nice that we still have this series still alive here. Trying drivers tonight as they come out for qualifying, and we are looking at a possible driver that might be P1 tonight. Philip in the Dodge Viper.
Yeah, Philip had an amazing run last week at Monza. They started P3, but were able to get the P2 after, unfortunately, Arrow unfortunately had that horrific stop and damage and just was not able to recover. Philip, though, I think for this one will be in a much comfier spot as we hop on board with Philip as they head down to turn 1 before making their long trek into the straight before the Clark chicane. It's going to be a little bit. And it's very... I'm going to be honest, like, these long straights are going to make it... It's going to be very interesting, especially if somebody has a run, because they'll have a lot of time to maybe make a pass, but then you're going to come down toward the Clark chicane, and it is going... if you're neck to neck with somebody here, it's very risky, especially with these cars having no traction control or ABS. Following along now, it's on its way toward the Ost chicane now. And
yeah, it's definitely interesting to see because they might have issues losing a bunch of time if they go into side-by-side 3D chicanes for sure.
Oh yeah, side drafting will probably be pretty effective, but not as effective as, say, just sitting behind somebody and maybe trying to create like a drift train or something down these long straights.
Yeah, but I see here, sorry, that Phil did have kind of an exit for the chicanes coming down to Senna. So drivers definitely trying to figure out some lines here and there for sure, but definitely want to make sure they don't have issues on the exit, because exit's where you get most of the time here in this track.
Yeah, absolutely. Exit is going to be your best friend. Heading now through the last long straight into Agip. I believe it's called Agip?
It is called Agip, so you're not wrong there.
Okay, and then we're hitting in the Sachs corner, this is now part of the modern layout. As they set themselves up for the final corner, the Opel corner, and that'll be a lap around Hockenheim. It looks like it's going to be a fairly decent time. We're going to have to wait a little bit
for the times to start start showing up on our timing board, and it's going to be interesting because we have a mix of both just mid-engine like NA cars with a few cars that do have turbos, and when it comes to stuff like this, I kind of want to say that the NAs have a little bit more of an advantage.
Well, it really depends on the car as well as their setup as well. So I've heard some drivers might be preferring to get a little bit running on low wing. Some of them prefer to be running on high wing. So it's definitely a more of a, do you want to be comfortable within an hour, or do you want to be fighting a bull within the remaining hours as they are racing? So we'll see things start to figure out themselves sooner or later, as we see here, Phil going a bit wide and sliding a bit on these corners. So definitely very interesting to see. But there are a few track limits that these drivers need to prepare for at this race, because as you can see throughout practice and stuff, drivers have been running through a little bit off the brake boards at turn 12 agate. That's mostly because the stewards have decided that it is allowed to do so. Drivers can go all the way to the left and you basically get into the braking markers to take the corner at turn 12. That's unfortunately because the brake markers can't be pushed down, so they could run through it, but it's definitely allowed here. What's not allowed though is the chicanes at all chicane, turn 5, 6, and 7. You're not allowed to cut any of those. Actually, most of the chicanes you can't just cut through them. As you can see here, these drivers coming through turn 2 and 3. At Clark, drivers are not allowed to take the alternate line where the barriers are, or else they'll get disqualified for trying to do the esports line. So drivers need to remember, keep in line. If they do cut it, try to slow down to give back time gain. And yeah, it should be a very interesting race as drivers try to get as much draft as possible in qualifying. You can see here F1 Jaeger in front, behind a Murcielago. I'm not sure who's that in front of them. I'm about to see in a bit. But yeah, the draft is really important, and that's going to give them a bunch of time coming down into the modern track layout.
Yeah, I believe the car ahead of them is Suzuka as they head into the modern section of this track, which would be Agip, and now heading toward Sachs. And this is going to be interesting. Afon currently has the fastest time of a 2:03.3, and now it looks like I'm looking at the sector times. Philip has purple sector 1. I'm kind of waiting on seeing what there's. I believe they're somewhere near sector 2. I'm interested to see where this goes. As we follow along now with Luke, who's in P3. Luke is also on a purple lap. Oh, they were on a purple lap until that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for them. But if you were saying Sector 2, well, there's a few tied for Sector 2 right now. This fastest Sector 2 time is a 52.7 that has been shared between F1 Jaeger, Luke Parker, and Spirit. So definitely a few drivers that are very quick in the second sector. I assume it's pretty quick because the second sector is mostly just straights. So definitely it's gonna be a pretty comparable second sector if the car is set up for it. It's usually where sector 1 and sector 3 is where you see where these drivers will have the time differentiated for qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, because sector 3 is going to be the roughest one with the tighter corners and the slower section. And then sector 2, you've got, I believe, both Ost and Senna chicanes. If my memory serves right, it's both Ost and Senna. So
it should be. So it's just going to be straights and just a couple of chicanes.
Yeah, so that's going to be slower than sector 1, which is just one corner and then the Clark chicane. So it'll be, those times will be vastly different, as I'm kind of keeping an eye on our timing chart, and nothing's really kind of it's not really, nobody's really on a flyer at the moment. I think everybody's just trying to get heat in their, yeah, I think they're still trying to get heat in their tires. We're going to start seeing those push laps soon, though, because once the tires start to heat up and they're at the optimal temperature, people are really going to start to push. We're following along now with New as they head out of the Sac chicane and heading toward Opal Corner, the last corner here. And I gotta say, as far as I know, there is a different bop for this race. The bop once again has just kind of kept everything kind of even. Like I'm not seeing vastly different times. I think the gap between the top three is not even a second. The gap between the fourth and sixth, again, not or fourth and eighth. Actually, I stand corrected again. Fourth and 10th is not even a second. So, yeah, as I was saying that, I was noticing the times were getting updated, and it went from like 3 or 4 to almost 4th to 10th. So, definitely going to be very interesting as we follow. As Bushel is now on a push, I believe, now getting some push laps in. They've been dropped down to P11 at the moment, but we'll see if that maybe changes, and it absolutely does. Bushel with a P7 at 2:04.5, still about a second off the fastest time right now by Afon Jaeger. And
yeah, Bushel having an issue last week, so but having a breeze last week definitely shows that they definitely have a car to really work on this week. Afon Jaeger definitely seems to have it locked down with a 2:03.3 in front, but definitely, as you said, a second with the gap. So Bushel has to find the gap somewhere, maybe through setup, maybe through the way maybe Afon Jaeger might be pushing the limits a bit more than Sarah. So Sarah has to figure that out before the end of qualifying. There is currently 18 minutes remaining to this qualifying, so definitely more time to deal with it. We'll have to see how things go as the timer runs out.
Yeah, I mean, we still got plenty of time. I don't foresee people panicking and trying to set the most insane lap possible at this point. It's still a bit too early. These are people just trying to, try a few laps, see if they can get a really good time, and making tweaks as they go. And it's fairly early on, so it's going to be. I guess the best way to put it is, it's too soon to tell.
It's definitely too soon to tell, but they are pushing as hard as they could. Afon Jaeger, though, another purple first sector, 38.8 is their fastest right now. But the sector 2 isn't the fastest right now, 52.3. So we'll have to see in a bit if Afon Jaeger improves. They really have improved with a 2:03.089 on their previous lap. So the gap is definitely increasing currently. Phil can't answer to that. Luke can't answer to that. So they are the only 3 drivers in the 203s. And the 204s are pretty competitive. Raphael as well as Adrian are fighting for positions. That's not Niego is basically Suzuka having issues. Doing all right there with 204.2. And it's gonna be pretty interesting. But Sarah coming into the 203 club at the 203.7, so definitely has been improving. Now to find another 7/10ths into this, and they'll definitely be fighting for first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, I was noticing that Sarah, that last sector was on an absolute fire. It was not a purple sector, but they were improving everywhere. I was very interested to see where they placed it. A P3 is not bad at all. It gets them back up in the top spot. Now all they have to do is maybe try to. All they really need is another step, like 6 or 5/10ths, which I think is very doable because they're still really pushing out there, getting those tires heated up, and they're probably at the optimum temperature right now. So all Bushel has to do is just set up a really good lap, which I foresee happening. It's probably going to be another interesting start to this race. So long as no shenanigans happen at the start, I have a feeling that this is going to be very interesting between Afon, Stara, and Philip again.
Yeah, definitely going to be a very interesting start for the three of them. But for P2 and P3, though, it seems like Xavier Rank in the Aston Martin is struggling a little bit in these corners. As he's pushing a bit too hard for the final sector. So definitely has more pace in it, hopefully. But it seems like Luke is having a better time here. But from last race. Both drivers do have the tendency of pushing the car a little bit too much in the race. You definitely don't want that to happen, given that the race is usually an hour long and not a 5-minute sprint race. So pace isn't always where it isn't king. It's more about consistency. So long as they keep it alive for the next hour after qualifying ends, they should really be able to take it home. But currently, Luke in P5, Xavier in P11 is going to be interesting to see how things go. Oh, and it's going to be a black screen for us. We're going to come back in a bit. But yeah, it's very interesting with the standings coming up, with Sarah fighting with A. Jaeger, with Phil in the first 3 spots. Unfortunately, they aren't, A. Jaeger and Phil aren't that high up yet. But if they keep P2 and P3, they will get good points. But it's going to be interesting tonight.
Yeah, I agree. We do apologize for the technical difficulties. We are just dealing with a quick issue. And I gotta say, I'm still keeping an eye on the times. I haven't seen anyone improve yet, but it's definitely very close. So I foresee that, first off, we're back. Again, we apologize. We are now on board with S Spirit as they head down toward the Clark chicane, and they are, I believe, they're on a pretty good lap right now. Well, they were until they probably clipped that corner a little bit. But I was gonna say it's definitely the field is definitely starting to close up here.
Yeah, the gap has definitely closed up. The gap to P2 and P3 and P4 less than a tenth to each other, and that's going to be another position less than a tenth for P4 and P5. These positions are pretty competitive. Oi, that's going to be safe, not touching the wall. But the gaps between all the drivers are within a tenth of each, within half a second of each other, all the way until. Actually, all the way into P17, so the gap's pretty close to each other. It's going to be a very interesting fight. But that's kind of the nature of this track, because the fact that you only get a very close, a very tight third sector. It's all about making sure that you are very slipstream, very streamlined for the first and second sector to not lose as much time as possible. And just because of that, the gap is pretty close to each other, and that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I'm gonna be super excited for the race because of just how close this field is. We're gonna be seeing battles everywhere, so long as nobody gets into any major incidents. But I'm knocking on wood and praying, as a commentator, that doesn't happen. But knowing my luck and commentator's curse, that has probably been jinxed at this point. So
we hold too much power.
Yeah, we apparently do. I don't understand why I've been given this much power. It never ends well.
It never does.
No, it never does.
But yeah, it's gonna be alright.
Yeah, it usually ends in one of two ways. Either somebody wrecks into somebody else, or something explodes. For me, usually for me, something explodes.
But regardless, though, we do have 50% damage here, so the damage will be reduced, and the fact that we have race control here, so if things do go south too quickly, we will have the race stewards to tell us if things will be alright or not. We might get a restart, we might get a full course caution. That's gonna see in a bit, but I will keep my ears posted in race control should things happen. So we'll see about how things go. And for now, though, qualifying, say Philip coming through the line. Will there be an improvement? They didn't really improve on the second sector. Will they improve on the third sector, though? Setting a lap of 2:07.57, so definitely have more time to beat. They definitely have backed up a little bit at the third sector, so maybe go again. Maybe you'll get a better pace next lap.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have 11 minutes left. 11 and a half minutes about whereabouts, as we see Philip on an absolute flyer now. Unfortunately, running into a little bit of traffic. I believe that is F Spirit that they just had to pass, and I believe the F Spirit was not on a flyer. They were letting them by. I hope so. If not, the stewards are actually gonna really look into that. We'll have to wait and see. But so far, they are definitely on a little bit of a flyer. They have improved their first sector. This is their personal best. It is not a purple yet, but it is definitely an improvement. Um, this could be the lap as Philip heads now toward the off chicane, but that might have cost them a little bit of time.
Yeah, trying to
When-
maximize as much as possible and just going on the grass a little bit too much.
Yeah, just a little bit too deep in the grass. Thankfully, they were able to save it and only have a little bit of wiggle. They may have not lost a whole lot of time, but they definitely lost a little bit of time doing that. Now heading into the modern section of this track, and another wiggle going into the corner. You know, again, we bring up the fact that these cars do not have ABS, and that's pretty unnerving going into a corner, because it's just so easy to lock these cars up if you don't have good brake and throttle control, because you have stuff like that. Another wiggle from Philip. This is costing him a lot of time. Is it going to be enough to maybe challenge? But it will.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So originally, Stera had actually stolen P2. I just noticed that on the timing sheet with a 203.349. And now Philip retaliates with a 203.2. 90 minutes left on the clock. So if they're going to set up another lap, they're going to have to do it now. Stera Wishel again on a charge. Their first sector not as good as Philip. So unfortunately, yeah, it's even worse this time. They're about 4 thousandths off of what they would like to be. Now heading down toward Osh Chicane, they need a little bit of time improvement here to maybe make a run. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, definitely a nice lap by Phil, and Sarah's gonna have another run. So it's nice. So it's nice to see that these drivers are pushing the laps to the limit. The Viper, though, with how scary it is, it's definitely living up to its reputation. All the way at the front, not much weight at the rear, but as you brake, the rear just steps out. It's gonna be very scary. It definitely feels like if a front engine car that just has all the way at the front. It's gonna be pretty interesting to see how Phil tackles this. Obviously, you don't want to have any sort of horrible pit stops like last week by Phil. So if they don't do that, they might have a run. So long as they keep it alive, the Viper, as you have seen in Monza, is pretty scary. But so long as you keep it safe, tame it really well, don't push it over the limit too much, should be alright. But Sarah, they're coming into the final sector, coming into turn 15, and then turn 16, they're pushing the absolute limits. A purple sector 2, man, actually no, that's not true. That's a green sector 2. Sector 1's alright with 39.4. Will they get improvement after coming across the line? I think the answer is no. It's at 203.6, so definitely still more time to gain from the fastest. But right now, still F1 Jaeger and P1 with a 203.089.
Yeah, Afin has just been kind of chilling at this point. Nobody's really gotten kind of close to their time. So all Afon really has to do is maybe try to improve a little bit. But right now they're chilling they're chilling with a nice pole. And now Wushel again, green sector 2. The car I think has just been really struggling in the first sector for some reason or another. It is where the Vipers seem to have a lot of advantage, because I'm noticing that the Vipers they're just a little bit faster going out of that corner. They just have a little bit of better corner exit than the Lamborghini, and I think that's just kind of what's hindering Wushel a little bit, as we see at Afon once again. Ooh. Wow, that was insanely deep going into the Osh chicane. I'm actually kind of amazed they didn't spin there. There was 2 wheels in the air. Like, that was an amazing,
insane.
Amazing job by Afon to not let the car spin. But unfortunately, that's going to cost him a lot of time. Now heading toward the center chicane, and I mean that was pretty sketch. But at least they were able to save it, and hopefully, continue on and try to maybe improve this next lap.
Yeah, definitely. I think most of the time lost from Wushel to the Vipers might be from turn 1. Turn 1 is a pretty pretty hard corner to be at, because you gotta be really brave. It's not really a right-hander. Because of that, you kind of have to be brave and just attack the chicane as hard as possible, while at the same time not spinning out into the gravel on the exit. That kind of really sets you up for a very good run all the way up to turn 2. And if you don't have a good run there, you kind of basically lose a lot of time, because from the stretch from turn 1 to turn 2, it's just so long. You don't get a breathing room as you did from turn 4 to turn 5, where it's kind of not that long. And it's really one of the longest straights that you have here on this track. And as you can see here, Afon pushing the track limits as much as possible. And it really depends on how the car is set up, because front engine cars can take the curves pretty well because how stable the front end is with how much weight there is. But the Murcielago, some of the more mid-engine to rear-engine cars, they're definitely going to struggle really hard coming down to turn 1. And I think that's the difference between the Viper and the Murcielago here at Hockenheim.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like rear-engine cars or mid to rear-engine cars just are incredibly finicky to drive over stuff like, say, a corner or a sausage curb. You'll notice, like, even in games like ACC that have, like, mid-engine cars, like, you'll notice that the front-engine cars, they can take curves no problem, but you'll notice that a lot of people that take mid-engine cars or rear-engine cars, they don't take the curbs as much because it just unsettles the car so much, and it's just super. It can be annoying. Like I've driven a BMW, like the M4, and I've driven the 296, and I gotta say, like, you feel the difference going into corners. Your line is completely different because you can't get away with as much in, say, something like the 296, and
yeah,
that's gonna be the big thing.
Yeah, but I think it's also you can make it happen. The keyword is can, but you kind of lose a lot of the benefits and as well as the characteristics of these different engine layouts should you want to make it comply here and there. But a purple sector 2 from Afon Jaeger coming down into the final corners. Will they get a purple sector 3 though? If they do, they might get a sub 2:03 lap time. That's going to be very interesting to see. They did not get a purple sector 1 though. That still is held by Philip with a 38.8. Afon Jaeger did a 39.0. Will they get a purple sector 3 and improve their lap time? That's going to be
yes. Will. Oh my god!
A sub 203 lap, a 202.7. That is insane.
My god, that's an insane lap. I'm gonna be real. I don't think anyone's gonna be able to beat that time. And unfortunately, Afon picked the weirdest, the most awkward time to try to pull off. Because as they did, that looked like it was Xavier and somebody else were coming right out of pit lane, and it just made it was HD and MNU came out of the pit lane, and like Afon had nowhere to go. Now they have to go one more lap around because they didn't want to impede the people coming out of the corner. As we follow along now with Philip, who has taken the purple sector 1, 38.8. Now heading down toward the main chicane. They're going to give it everything they've got. They've got 2 minutes, so it will be this lap and one more after this to set a lap before qualifying ends. But again, you were talking about how unfair. This is. I've been corrected. This is actually their out lap. So it'll be this next lap will be the lap that they need to set in order to try to beat Afon's time, but that's going to be a tall order, I think.
Yeah, I think Phil's definitely have a pretty strong rear brake bias, because front engine cars, you really gotta put the brake bias rearwards just to get some sort of grip on the front tires. But with not much weight at the rear, it is really risky. As you can see there, just now the big wiggle, the wiggle of death really scares you into making sure you don't push it too hard. As you can see here, actually really is pushing it as much as it could, getting as much of the heat on the tires as possible, but at the same time chasing timer in front. Will they want to put a little bit of a gap to the car in front though? I'm not sure who that is. I think that is going to be a car that he might be comfortable following, but if they are not, they might want to pull a bit of a gap just to make sure to get some of a gap, or else they might get impeded, and that's going to be a lap done for them. But this is the exit, and it's going to be a start of the final lap for qualifying for Phil. Will they be able to make a good run coming to turn 1? Will they attack turn 1 hard though? No, missing the apex a little bit. I think that's gonna lose the time. That's gonna be gone. No.
Oh no. Oh, that's so unfortunate. And wait, that I think was
Luke.
Sarah. Was that Wishel?
No, that's
from
Luke
there?
at P4.
Oh, that was Luke. Okay. Yeah, that was super unfortunate for Philip. They just pushed a little bit too hard going into turn one, and that is their qualifying done. As we follow along now with Rafael.
There's Rafael.
Yeah,
Rafael
Rafael.
Rodriguez
Yeah.
coming in at P5. That's going to be the only one. Actually, no, that's not going to be the only one. That's going to be. Actually, that is the only one of the drivers in the top 5 that has qualifying because A1 Jaeger might go for another lap, but I don't think that is their current time. They have a 125.9 first sector. It's definitely not there yet. They might be able to chase the timer coming down to sector 3 though, so they might get another lap. But currently, Luke being spinning out, Rafael will be the only driver remaining in the top 5 that have a good that might have a shot at this. They did a 54.6 first sector though, so I don't think that's gonna be their time currently. So we'll see how they fare here with 18 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, this will be the last of the top 5 that is able to set a time, and I'm looking. They did improve their sector 2. It's 50. It's a 52, so they could maybe gain a little bit. I don't know if they're going to be able to beat Luke's time unless they set like an absolute monster of a lap from here on. But we'll have to see as they head down the last main straight, heading toward the corner, and that is gonna be it's very close. I'm keeping an eye on the sector 2 times. Who is that? That's new in the background.
Oh no, that's
no,
Jesper. That's
Jesper.
Swingley. That's Swingley. Oh, it's gonna impede themselves. Oh no, it's gonna be a couple of cars impeded because of the spin, but that's gonna be unfortunate. That's Parker Olsen, P13 being impeded. Luke Parker at P4. Will they be able to? I don't think they are able to set a lap time here. I don't think they're pulling off as well. So unfortunate for these drivers at the very end, but they can practice for the pit entry. The pit entry is really important because drivers need to do a pit entry for a tire change. Actually, not a tire change, maybe for a fuel stop, maybe. So we'll see as the drivers start to finish their laps in qualifying.
Yeah, we're following out now with Chris, and they've been on a little bit. They've actually been kind of quiet. They've been sitting nice and tidy in P12, only about a tenth off of Vossi ahead of them. They're now heading out of the A-Gip corner on their way to Saks, and it's looks like it's going to be an improvement. 52.7 sector 2, so they are trying. If they can keep this last corner nice and stable, they might be able to do it. But they had a little bit of wiggle breaking into the corner. Will it be enough? Here they come across the line. Will it be enough to change positions? Yes, it will by a majority. A 2:04.43. It took them from 13th all the way to 9th.
A nice run from Chris, getting a good time here at the last moments of qualifying. So nice to see drivers are getting their lap times in, but you can hear the gap from P1 to P5 within a second of each other, and that's going to continue on from P6 to P12, another second behind them. That's going to be the second gap to A1 Jaeger, and then it's going to be the time kind of trails off back then, but it's nice to see the gap being pretty competitive. All the drivers between each other all within actually half a second of each other, so it's nice to see drivers pushing in good lap times. But it does not matter at the end because we still have an hour of racing, regardless of where you are positioned. So long as you keep it, if you don't keep it on track, that's not gonna matter at all. Currently though, Phil in P2. That might be the more beneficial positions to be in, given that you might get a very long tow at into turn 2. So we'll see how the race start goes. We should talk about tie breaking actually. Just now we see here at P1 with 49 points, with 69 points, nice by Sarah. You can see from calculations early on that Xavier and Luke may get points is within championship range if Sarah did retire. But Xavier has the special case here that. But the thing is that if Sarah gets 18 or higher in this race, they might they might win the championship because the gap here, so long as Sarah has more than 25 points, actually has more than 25 points of a gap this thing should be all right if my math is correct there.
So
So right now,
I,
ooh,
I I agree, but there's a lot of factors in this. So say Sarah, disconnects or gets taken out early on in the turn one squabble. All MNU has to do at that point is win the race. If they win the race, if Wishel finishes 19, or basically they have to finish dead last. If they finish dead last, then all Xavier has to do is win the race, and they've got the championship. And the same goes for Luke. Now, between Luke and MNU, it will be whoever comes out on top will get the position, will get P2. So that's going to be the big thing. I think it's going to be the closest one at the moment.
yeah, and as well as the fact that Arc actually I don't think Arc Kelly is not Arc Kelly, Robbie Kelly is here. RK as well as Drift 340 being here, I think RK is gonna have a good position here for the position in front of Drift 340. But Vossi being in this race might push themselves higher up in the standings, so it's gonna be a pretty interesting fight within the first five. It's actually the first few standings on the championship. So it's basically anyone's game for additional positions here. But the main point we're looking at is still going to be Wushel. So long as we said here, so long as they keep it alive, so long as they don't have any sort of big major issues, even if they disconnect, they should be able to join back. I think rejoin is available and continue on racing. So long as they are within 18 positions or higher, they will get this championship. So Sarah just needs to make sure to stay alive, just stay calm, even if you lose positions, just finish the race, and it's going to be a very nice run. But the race should start soon. Drivers are going to be on the grid, getting ready and everything. So we'll see as drivers get the fuel, get everything ready, and it should be a very interesting start to the race.
Yeah, it'll be definitely a very interesting start as we are still waiting for everybody to grid up and get ready to go. I will say this is going to be a very interesting start because it's the start, and then I almost want to say they have 500 feet to turn one. So if you're going to make a move off the launch, you're going to have to make it then, or position yourself to try to make a move, and then maybe try to get a better exit out of turn one, and that'll be where you'll probably see a lot of people make their positions, or cause an incident. We'll have to wait and see. As we still are waiting for everybody to grid up, we'll have about a minute till everybody is gridded up and ready to go. Super excited! This is gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be
So
interesting here, but you can see we have info that the first grid driver does start on the left, so P2 is beneficial here because they will have the inside line. But the problem is if they don't have a good run for on the start, they might not be able to get any sort of improvement out of it. So we'll see in a bit how things go. Should the start be in here, I think it's going to be 15 seconds to the countdown, so we'll see how things go. So good luck to the drivers ahead.
yeah, we're waiting for the lights to go out. And get ready, 3, 2, 1, and it's lights out and away we go. And iPhone with an absolute monster of a launch. They were easily able to get ahead of P2, and unfortunately P3 has gotten a little bit worse for wear. Somebody's just gone wide. I think that's Philip.
It's
Yeah,
HDD.
that's Philip. Oh yeah, it is HDD that went very wide going out of the corner, and unfortunately that's going to be so unhealthy for him because I think they've lost a little bit of position as we follow along now. I believe that is they don't that.
Yeah, but the old chaos into turn 2 and the chicanes here, drivers are trying to not lock up, and this here, locking up is going to be a lot of issues here. But we'll try to figure out the drivers as the drivers continue to go on.
Oh, that's trouble. That's big trouble. That's a big
but
crash.
drivers are still staying alive here.
That's F
That's number
Spirit.
9. Oh, that's
that's
F Spirit.
F-Spirit.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's super unfortunate. They went plowing into the wall, almost flipped over. I think they got bumped by somebody as
back on board with Afon, and that's more trouble. I think that's
Yes, I can't.
yeah, that is Sadcat, unfortunately having a little bit of a problem going into the Oz chicane, but looks like they didn't have any too major damage. Back following another battle. This is for P3. Philip trying to make up what they lost, sending it into the center chicane. That was very risky, but they were able to save it. That almost went badly. Another car in the background that is just spun.
Chris.
That's Chris. Yeah. They just had a pretty bad launch going out of the chicane, and now again Philip trying to make a move going into the corner, and that was just super unfortunate. And now heading down toward our first lap, it looks like Afon and Wushel have kind of ran away with it. Afon, I think, has about, I want to say like a second or two gap on Wushel. I want to say
there is a 1.3 second gap between F1 and Wushel, so definitely the Dodge Viper in front definitely is spreading its wings, but Murcielago is still chasing pretty strongly behind it. But right now Phil is trying to catch up on Rafael in the Ferrari in front of them, making up for lost time from going a bit too wide in turn one. These cars definitely don't feel right with a little bit of a colder tire, but as the laps go on, the tire should warm up and should be able to get the grip though. You can see here the car has a better run, but Rafael has positioned themselves to have a good defense coming to turn 2, turn 3.
That's a lockup!
Oh, but all of them survived the corner though, but Rafael going a bit wide, and it's currently a 3-wide battle all the way into the chicane. Who will be in front of them? I think that's HCD being in front, but Rafael has lost position here. Newt coming in behind, trying to take advantage of it, but that's going to be Rafael fighting for positions as Fossey has overtaken them for P. That's going to be P5.
Yeah, really bit of a shake-up there. HCDB was able to kind of make the move, and then unfortunately, Raphael was unfortunately got squeezed out going out of the Clark chicane, and it cost them 2 spots. Now heading down toward the I think we're coming out of the Oz chicane and heading toward Senna chicane as we follow along now with Vossi. And now, a little bit of a lockup from Vossi and really wide going out of the Senna chicane. And that could open the door for Raphael. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, very nice fight with all these drivers side by side coming down to turn 12 though. Who will be in front of them? As you see here from the camera behind it, the Murcielago though. Well, these drivers are fighting for positions pretty hard, but remember, they still have an hour to get this all sorted out. So it's going to be, a lock up in front by HDD. So drivers are trying to stay alive here. As we see here, getting so much pressure from Newt right behind them. They got to make sure they don't crack under pressure though, or else they're going to lose their position. Newt here locking up here and there. So all the drivers trying to stay alive with lockups here and there, but the lights are showing up. The flashes may start to happen, but currently the gap is increasing. F1 Jaeger in P1 solidly 2.6 seconds here, and behind will be Sarah, and 4.2 seconds will be Phil in P3.
Yeah, M&U following along now, trying to make a move on Suzuka as they head down toward the first chicane, and it looks like the power of the NA is actually doing really well for Suzuka. They were able to kind of run away with it on turn 1. Now heading toward Clark. They're doing what they usually do and keep it in the middle, and that was very close. They have a bit of a lockup from M&U. And now we have a little bit of a problem. That's Afon. Oh my god, Afon is falling off like a rock. I think they made a mistake going into Clark, and now they went from P1 to P3.
Oh, it's gonna be more mistakes. Oh, them sliding. That's gonna be HCD sliding. That's gonna. Don't redraw on track. That's gonna be. So survives it.
God, that was so scary. Going into the Oz chicane, they spun and almost rolled into the racing line. Oh man, that could have ended so badly for them. But thankfully, everybody walked away from that.
Yeah, but side by side battle, the fight still goes on for these cars. As I predicted, the chicanes definitely have caused chaos here. Chicanes usually are pretty scary, but the side-by-side battle stays alive, stays clean. Definitely going to be a very strong recovery drive for Phil, as well as F1 Jaeger currently sitting back at P10 and P11. They definitely have a very, very, very big grid in front of them to fight for positions, as You know, the grid, you know, is boy. That's gonna be MNU and the car 36 having issues there. That's unfortunate for timing for all these drivers.
That was so unfortunate. There was a lockup from Fossey, and it caught MNU a little bit off guard. They had to back out a little bit, and I don't know who that was. That Sadket behind them? Oh, it was Fez that was behind them, and Fez had really almost nowhere to go. Rear-ended MNU, and it was just enough to send them spinning into the wall.
Yeah, that's really just unfortunate. But Fez right now slowly climbing up onto the leaderboard. They're currently P7. I don't think Fez did qualify that high up, but as you can see here, you just gotta stay alive. The more you stay alive, the higher you just get up there. And Voss is currently in P6, and Vez is just P7. They qualified in P16 previously, so definitely more positions gained for them, and they definitely would like to keep that alive. Should they have one, the pit stop strategy, and two, have all their strategies right.
Yeah, and definitely it's going to come down to pit strategy, but unfortunately, I'm looking at the gap. It's the closest person to Wushel is New with a 1.4 seconds, but that's out of draft range. He tried to make a move on Suzuka and didn't go well. It almost took them out, but Fossey was thankfully able to back out. That was off chicane, and that was brave. That was very brave of Fossey. It almost ended in disaster, but now they have to, all that time they gained, they now have to regain it. As we follow along down with another battle, this is Afon and Philip trying to climb their way back up the line, heading into this is Senna chicane, and it's getting very dicey. You can see that there's some cars with damage that these two now have to get through, and it's getting a little bit chaotic.
Yeah, I feel Sadcat right now in between the sandwich of the faster drivers here, so definitely pushing it as much as possible. Oh, what happened to Suzuka? What's happened? They've gone wide. Did they get hit? Did they just lock up? And unfortunately, it feel like with how far they have gone wide, I got a feeling that Vossi might have hit them. Who knows? But you can see here, who's that? They
did. I absolutely think they did. I'm looking at the timing sheet. Vossi was also. That's Raphael also in the wall. But I'm looking at the timing score, or the time score, and it looks like Vossi has also fell down rapidly as well. I think Vossi ran into Suzuka, and they both went off.
Yeah, these cars definitely not a good time to tunnel vision to the car in front. When you're braking based on other people's braking, you're gonna lock up very fast, and you should have learned that. The first time they almost ran into the back of Suzuka, but unfortunately they did not learn that, and that has caused them an incident coming down into the modern sectors of the track. That's a lockup.
That's a big lockup, but thankfully they were able to save it. I believe that is Chris fighting Parker or somebody.
It's Adam.
Yeah, it's Adam. I'm sorry.
Adam.
Yeah, it's Luke fighting Adam. I apologize. And that was scary. That could have ended so badly, as we see that Adam locked up again, going in. Oh wait, that was Parker. There was Parker in the off chicane. They locked up again, and it sent them into the wall. Thankfully, they were able to save. They didn't hit anybody else. As we follow up, this is for T10. Suzuka trying desperately to get around Raphael by any means almost any means necessary. They're going to send it on the outside, looking for a move. As we see Vossi just trying to find a spot to see if they can take advantage, because that line really offset Suzuka, and Vossi almost had the run but was not able to do it.
Trying to break the toe, Suzuka trying to do that, but you can't really do too much movements here as coming down into P12. That's going to be a small wiggle coming down to turn 12. Not the best idea, given that you have to break as straight as possible to not lock up, but definitely Suzuka is definitely a little bit desperate, trying to stay ahead as much as possible. But Raphael from P5 dropping down to P10. They definitely, it's Vossi going sideways, also saves it though.
It's not saved yet. That was not saved yet. That was very close. The amount of wiggling that car was doing could have ended so badly as even you now with a wiggle.
Everyone's going on a very low wing setup, it seems.
I wouldn't even say it's low brain setup. I just think it's tires that are destroyed because bear in mind that all these drivers now, they've either spun, gotten hit, or gone into the grass. Bear in mind that's really bad. That does not help your tires at all. So I'm thinking it's just people struggling with really worn out or flat spotted tires. So it's just super unfortunate, but it is making things very interesting.
It is interesting, but at the same time, it is definitely insane with how these drivers are fighting the cars here and there. Some of them might be tunnel visioning to the cars in front, but definitely don't want to do that, especially in the race. We still have 58 minutes remaining to this race, so you gotta make sure things go right, make sure they stay alive. Fez, though, from P7 to P4, definitely gaining positions here, but Phil right behind them. But currently, Phil behind them is gonna make an overtake, but I don't think Fez will make that easy for them, as Phil definitely wants to gain that front position back from them.
Yeah, a monumental charge from Fez. All they had to do was keep the car on the track and not rotate in any way, and it has now netted them from P15 all the way to P4 on their way to maybe a podium if something goes wrong for Luke. But now they've got a bigger problem. They've got two of the faster drivers right on their tail, and you can see that they want to get around them because all Fez is doing is bottling those two up, and that's not going to be handy, especially for HEDB because they've got Afon behind them, and I believe they are the faster of the two. Yes, they are. They are the faster two by a fair margin. So currently, Afon with a purple sec is the one with the fastest lap, 2:05.1. So Afon is absolutely on a charge, trying to make up for what they lost.
Yeah, Fez here, last lap at 2:06.7. Phil here, second faster at 2:05.8. But Afon, though, basically 6/10, actually more than half a second faster than Phil in front of them at 2:05.1 and the fastest lap off the race. So definitely, if Phil does not make it happen, it's going to be a problem. But they have Phil has to make sure that.
Oh, here we go.
That is not going to be good for Phil, but that's a compromised line. Afon on the outside will HDBC Phil give them space. They will side by side coming to the second chicane. They might have to think about cooperating to make sure they get past Fez, or else they're gonna have issues here, and it's gonna slow down both of them. Because currently, with them fighting for P5 and P6, Adrian, Newt, as well as Luke Parker, all just going to go run away at this championship. But right now, Afon unable to make the overtake. Phil coming down is still staying alive. Hey, wait, where's Phil?
Oh, that's it. HCD binned it because they tried fighting that corner. And and I noticed that they were not in the best line going out of that corner, and I think it just cost them. The car rotated and into the grass they went. So unfortunately for ACDB, it cost them dearly trying to fight that. Had they just let it by, I think they probably would have been better off. They probably could have made a better move.
Yeah, but when you're really racing, you don't really want to give up positions, though. But currently, the track's not wide enough for these two, Raphael as well as Chris, fighting for positions here. Raphael did make the move, but Chris, a barrier exit coming down into turn 12, though. Who will be barrier ahead? I think it's gonna be Raphael, but will Chris let the position go that easy, though? For now, they have to, but they might have a better run here in a couple corners' time, coming down to the turn 13, turn 14. I think the move has stuck, but a little bit lock up from Raphael. Chris means that they'll have a better run, but they're still a little bit behind, so currently Raphael has taken place for P7 at the moment.
Yeah, definitely a bit. They had a little bit of a sketchy exit, but there was nowhere for Chris to really make a move, and that doesn't help it either. It was a bit of a wiggle going out of Opel, and you could see, like, these cars are just so, like, you're trying to push these cars so hard, and they are just they are being very vocal about how much they dislike it. And it's catching drivers off guard, because you can see with HCDB, they tried pushing out of the corner to try to maybe keep ahead of Afon, and it just sent them into the wall. So it's going to be interesting as we follow along now with Wushel, who's basically been running semi-uncontested. And if they win this, well, that's the championship for them. And so far, so long as nothing happens, internet or otherwise, I think Wushel's more or less got this.
Definitely, but looking at P2 and P3 as well, not in this race, but in championship, Xavier Rank as well as Luke Parker. With Xavier being at P15, Luke's gonna be gonna have a very good run at P13, P3. So it's gonna be, got a feeling that Luke might get P2 in this championship. So it's gonna be interesting to see if Luke stays alive. So long as they keep it ahead of Xavier, it's going to be interesting. But you can see here, Fez dropping down on the leaderboard. Fez has left. Not sure if there's an internet issue or a wheel issue, unfortunately for them. They were doing really well too, from P16 all the way to P4, but that's going to be an easy overtake for A1 Jaeger at P4, so that's going to be unfortunate that Fez has left.
I almost...
for now.
I mean, the other thing I want to wonder is, did something happen between Afon and Fez? Did maybe Afon make a move and it took them out? I don't know. We were unfortunately not able to catch it as we see the battle of the listers, Chris versus Philip, or Chris versus Adam, and that is very sketchy going into the modern section. And so far, it's evened out a little bit, but that was very, very sketchy. Here we go, as MNU on a recovery drive, currently fighting, I believe that's William, and it's MNU is definitely going to be the faster of the two, but will William fight it, or will William maybe try to let them by because it's just not their fight to try to prevent them from running into an issue?
We'll see in a bit, as I think they're just getting ball neck here, but I'm going to help Adam say this one on stream. Get overtaken by a keyboard driver, nerd. So it's going to be a very close fight for P9, P10. If Adam stays ahead, it's going to be a very, very good achievement by Adam at P9.
Been 0 days since commentators have committed a diplomatic incident, it seems. Anyway, it's another big fight going on. This is going to be Parker versus, this is a move and a half. This is, I believe it's Adam. Adam and Parker trying to battle it out into the lost chicane. That's not good. That was very ballsy, but Parker had nowhere to go. But I think the smart thing would be to let them by, as Vossi is now going to try to take advantage of the situation and try to get by Adam in this fight, and it, I think, will work out. We'll see. Heading into the center chicane, Vossi with the inside line.
It's a slide from Vossi, and that was not. Training.
That was not only a slide from Vossi, that was a big bonk into Adam, and it sent them onto the inside. I'm amazed neither of them spun. That was such a hard hit.
Yeah, but Vossi has given the position back, so definitely would like to do that again, but nice to see that Vossi has given the position back from a small little mistake. Unfortunately, I don't think it's really avoidable. It's just unfortunate that Vossi did a little bit of slide and that recovery kind of slapped Adam right on the side of the door.
Yeah, and it's like when you have an incident like that, it's just a smart thing to do. Just give them the place back, so that way if they report it, it's like, well, you gave the position back, so you won't get slapped as hard when the stewards review it. And then you could also try to go for it again, as we can see again, Adam having a little bit of a lockup going out of the corner, and it almost ended in disaster, but it looks like so far so good. As I see Vossi again. This is going to be a really good run, and that's Parker. That's Parker. I think they had an incident going out of turn 1, and now Vossi had to avoid Parker and try to make a move on Adam, and I think it'll work. Vossi with an incredible run heading toward the Clark chicane. They've got the inside line. That's a big lockup, and I think they touch too, heading into the corner. But that's so unfortunate. I'm very glad that Adam was able to keep it going, but I don't know. That one was pretty sketch. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, to see later for the stewards to see who turned into who, but the door panels on the list are definitely are not happy with how bad things are currently. But currently we see here who's that in P16. That's F Spirit coming down in the pits. Maybe starting to, the pit window is open, so drivers are starting to come into the pits. But That's Phil
PCD.
overtaking in and go for P7, so it's definitely nice to see them slowly regaining all the points that they have lost. They still have a long way to go to be able to regain their positions right now. But so long as they keep it alive, they might come back to P3. But I got a feeling that F1 Jaeger might be a bit too far for them for their recovery.
Yeah, I agree. And now I'm keeping an eye. I've been also kind of keeping an eye on the lead times, and difference is shockingly close. Wushel is only about a tenth. Yeah, about a tenth off of Wushel. So, if this keeps going the way it is, I don't see a game, but I also see that pit lane has now opened, which means tire strategies may come into play here. I'm wondering if maybe Newt may go for the undercut to see if they can beat Wushel out of the pits.
Well, you could say that, but if you look at the last lap, Sarah did 205.9, but F1 though, a second faster with a 204.8. So I got a feeling that no matter what Newt does, if the track is clean, they might have a good run. But currently F1 P3, Luke, I think just give them by. They feel like, you know what, let's not fight this. Oh, wait, that's not gonna be good. I was gonna say Luke wants to get this position away because at the end of the day, they realized that so long as they keep themselves in front of MNU, they don't have to worry about anything and get P2. But I got a feeling that they might try to try that again for the overtake for F1 for P3. But I got a feeling that Luke is playing it smart. Let F1 by. There's no point fighting for for this position. It's gonna be gone anyways. You might as well just keep yourself alive so that you can beat your championship rival at P3.
Yeah, that's a smart thing to do. It's really you got to think about the long game at this point. It's the last race of the season. You're in P3. Your opponent is at the back of the field on a massive recovery drive after getting, I believe, after getting involved in an incident. At that point, I would be just like, okay, I'm just gonna cruise here. I have no reason to fight anything, but I just gotta keep my nose clean, and then I've got whatever position I have. So I feel like with how hard Afon is pushing to try to make up for lost time, I feel like the smart thing for Luke to do would be to just let Afon by to try to see if they can go for the win and call it a day.
I mean, Luke did try to do that, it seems, but F1 just kind of pushed it a bit too hard with the toe. That is present if you're at such a long straight. So definitely have caught them off guard. They definitely want to try that again. But that's going to maybe be a lap or two because Luke definitely does not want to lose all the time they gain from staying alive ahead. So we'll see in a bit. But no, I don't think it's going to be doable here. The gap is still a bit far. But they might happen at turn 5, maybe. But so long as they get a good exit, that might be a good idea. But it's not beneficial for F1. The toe is definitely helping them to stay alive. So long as Luke does not impede, but Luke staying in the middle, I think they have said, you know what, that was a bit of a dumb move. So I'm gonna not let you buy us easy now. But the fight is still there. Oh, look, backing off.
Yeah,
a
there we
little
go.
early. Yep.
Backed off a little bit early. Let Afon by, and that was that at that point. But again, Afon going very wide out of off chicane, and it costs them time. I'm wondering if the off center of the line going into that chicane has just been throwing off Afon, but we've also run into the problem of just issues of cars just getting very unstable in that section or locking up.
I mean, Oz is a very because if you've seen the track, the corner is pretty narrow, as well the fact that the curbs are pretty high. So in the alternate line might not be the most ideal, but drivers should be able to compensate that for that with that by slowing down. But if you're a little bit greedy, you don't want to slow down as much. I think that's kind of the byproduct of it, is that you kind of lose a bit on the exit, and you really don't want to lose on the exit. There's so much straights here. It's better to just compromise yourself, slow yourself enough insanely on the chicanes, and just have a good exit. I think that's the most beneficial line. But if you see here, Afon's doing as the best as they could, staying alive, and it's paying off. They are saying pretty fast lap times, but with traffic, they definitely have slowed down. But right now, P3 with 15 seconds is the gap to the car in front. So long as they get a good pit stop, it shouldn't be a problem. And with the fact that there is no red flag this time around, the pit strategy from the driver should be alright. so long as they don't have any issues and they remember to set it up before the race, it should be available for them.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's what Afon's going to have to do. I predict that Afon's going to be the first of these three to pit, mainly just due to the fact that they want to try to go for maybe the long run because they got so much time to make up. And I feel like if they were able to box and get into open air, even more open air than what they are now, I think they'll be okay. As we follow along now with a battle for 10, this is between Parker and Adam. Parker with a massive run going out of turn 1. Here we go, heading into Clark. And Parker going to go for the outside line. This could work out if they break late. They broke very late, but it worked out perfectly. Amazing pass from Parker, now in P10.
Lockup from Adam definitely gave both of them a scare, but luckily enough, Parker definitely was in front just enough to make sure that Adam doesn't just clip him in the back. But Adam right now not giving up position just yet on the exit though. Bear exit. Will they make it into Oslo side by side coming down into here? Adam taking the wider line, giving position as much as possible. But that means Parker has a better run on the exit, and that's going to be Parker losing that position for now. Does not mean that it's going to be forever. We'll see in a bit should the lap times improve. Coming down into Senna, the last remaining chicanes before coming back into the modern era corners. But Parker going on the defensive as they know it's a better line. Adam though side by side. Who will be the better one on the exit? Adam on the outside. Oh, it might have the most stick, but they touch, but it's still alive. Both of them. Adam did cut the corner a little bit, so definitely gonna be Parker in front of them. And if they stay alive for the last sector, that might be Adam having the position basically given up. But the Lister has better strip stream though. Who will be in front? Adam might be side by side coming into turn 12. Oh, that's touching.
Double spin going into the corner. It was a simultaneous strip going into the corner, and unfortunately, Parker was the worst of the two. They had an amazing run. Adam unfortunately sent it on the inside, and they touched. That was so risky. I was sawing that. I was like, I don't think that's the move, and unfortunately, it cost them. But unfortunately, even further, it cost Parker more. And Adam did not give that position. I think that is going to be very frowned upon by the stewards. And now
definitely they tried.
Yeah,
I definitely tried, but I felt that as you can see here, the Adam has given Parker the position back, so they definitely tried. It's just that they didn't want to be sitting in the middle of the track, so they definitely have given the position back just a little bit further down to the track. But I gotta say just then as well, Adam, being that they don't have much control, I don't think it was a good idea. The idea was there, but given that they didn't have much control, as most of the wheel drivers here, definitely not have been a good position to be in, and definitely has caused a little bit of an incident. But they definitely have given the position back. But unfortunately for them, they're both affected by it, and that's going to be a problem because they wouldn't be able to catch up to Chris in front of P9.
Yeah, and following along now with Afon, who's on an absolute charge, trying to make up the time they've lost. Now in P3, and I believe they are passing now. They've gained already 2 seconds in this lap, and now they did deal with lap traffic. If they keep this pace up, I'm looking at the times. I want to say they'll catch it to New within 3 laps.
2 or 3 laps should be there.
Yeah, 2-3 laps. Should they stay out? And I don't know. I don't know what you think, but I feel like maybe if they boxed first out of the 3, it would give Afon a huge advantage, especially with how much time they have.
Well, it depends on if they prefer the newer tire or they prefer the lighter weight that the car is on right now. But the halfway point has just ticked over. There is currently 30 minutes or less into this race. But yeah, they could do that. It really depends on how much fuel they carry, and depends on the tires if they want to swap them up or not. But so long as the strategy is right for them, it shouldn't be a problem. But it really comes down to how Wusho and New take their pit stops.
Yeah. Battle for 8th. This is going to be between Suzuka and Chris the Gator as they head down toward Clark. And so far, Indigo is doing what they always do, being the Ministry of Defense, keeping that middle line, and it's worked out fairly well for them. Parker Parker or Chris still has a little bit of a ways to go, but not much anymore. That was a big whittle going out of Clark. That's going to give Chris a momentous run heading toward the Oss chicane, but I don't think it's going to be enough for them to make a move. But it's going to be the closest of the. It's going to be even closer than it was now, heading out of the Oss chicane. Suzuka with a much better run through there this time as they head out and on their way towards the center chicane. You can see Suzuka within a second. Suzuka's trying desperately to break the draft, so that way Chris doesn't have a run. On board now with Chris as they head down toward the center chicane. Chris doing everything they can to catch up to Suzuka, and it's worked out a little bit well for them. They've gained a little bit more, but now they've got one more long straight and before they head into the next corner. Is it going to be enough to make a move? I don't think so. I think they're just going to stay behind, and that is absolutely what they're going to do. Heading into the modern section, but you can see really deep going into that corner, and it gained them a lot of time, but I think Suzuka it was either Suzuka or Chris had a big lockup going into the corner, and it almost cost them. Oh man, Chris is trying desperately to get by, and Suzuka being the Ministry of Defense here, keeping the middle line, trying desperately to keep Chris guessing, and it's working so far. Chris has not been able to get around them as they now pass, I believe, 2 people are in the pits. That is, Luke and
Parker.
Luke and Adam, or ACDB, have
Phil.
both been in. So that's going to be a big help for them. But now, Chris trying desperately to try to make a move, but again, Suzuka just keeping that and high the middle line to make it really hard for Chris to get by. And so far it's worked out for them until now. Chris with a much better run. They're right on the bumper heading toward the Oss chicane. Suzuka keeping the lower line as they side draft heading toward Oss. It's going to be a run. Is it going to be enough though? Here they come toward the Oss chicane. Looking on the inside. No, they're going to back out of it. Wise move
but they
from
have
Chris.
a back exit though.
Yeah, but they had a rough exit. That's not going to be good with it being this close. Chris is going to have a much better run going out of the corner into center, and not only that, they have the inside line, so they're going to be able to send it in more. As you can see, Suzuka trying desperately to shut the door. Nowhere to go. They're stuck on the outside, but Chris is going to try to send it in. Here we go, heading toward the center chicane. Is it going to be enough? Yes, it is. Nice, clean pass from Chris on Suzuka. Super unfortunate. They kind of got caught out on the Oss chicane, and there was just nowhere for Suzuka to go to shut the door.
Yeah, I wonder if Suzuka's struggling with tires, given that Chris was just so good on the braking. It might be the characteristics of the Lister, but the Murcielago definitely is struggling a little bit. The lap times for both of them have fallen off, especially for Suzuka with a 2:07 as their previous lap. So definitely lap times have shown to be a bit slower. Chris was always going to get the overtake done, but it's definitely a matter of time. And unfortunately for Suzuka, Chris has gotten the move done, but it's definitely not an easy move for the two of them. So it's nice to see Chris currently strong in P6. Suzuka though might still have a long way to go, 25 minutes remaining to this race, so more to come. So long as they keep it alive, keep it good, they still have a pit stop to conduct. So with fresh tires, with fresh fuel, they might get a run. But for now, they have to just stay alive, stay ahead, keep their head down, and just make sure they finish their tires and just stay true to the strategy that they have in mind.
So while we were looking at this battle, I just happened to look over, and Newt has pitted. It is now in P4. So out of the top 3, Newt was the first to pull the trigger. And that's going to make things a little bit interesting for Afon, because Afon, being the faster car, now is sitting on completely open air and in P2. They've got a 13-second gap between them and Wushel. If they keep it clean and try to undercut Wushel, if it works out, I want to say by the last 10 minutes, I want to say they have a good chance of catching up to Wushel. So this should make things very interesting.
It should, but looking at F1's time last lap and Sarah's last lap, looking back at how F1 is progress is chasing back up to P1, it seems the F1's kind of maybe in traffic, or they might just have slowed down a little bit. The last lap for Sarah has been a 2:05.6, but F1 has done a 2:05.9. So the gap is slowly increasing, which is not ideal for F1. It just means that F1 has come into the pits. They have realized this. It's time for them to come in, slow down, take a drink, get some fresh tires, and maybe go for it again. If not, they really do not want the gap to keep improving, and Sarah's gonna sigh a breath of relief right now, as they can, not have the notion of F1 just racing at the back of them. And maybe it's time for Sarah to come into the pits. There is 23 minutes remaining to this session, so it's now or never. Drivers have to pit in. If not, we'll see how things go.
Yeah, Afon is coming out now, so we'll have to see. But following along now, this is the battle for ninth between Philip and Sadcat, and you can see Philip has a much better time, but I think that's just because Sadcat was just out of the pit. I think they just pitted just not too long ago. So I don't think this is going to be a battle for position, more of a, kind of a...
On the outside.
Here, as we can see on the outside, here we go. Yeah, Sadcat's not even going to fight it. Letting HCD by, no problems whatsoever, and away he goes.
Yeah, it's going to be P6 right now for Phil, but there's still more positions to go. Luke in front of them, and obviously the biggest target yet, A1 at P4. But that just means that they have Adrian in front as well as Raphael. That's not pitted so long with Sarah, P1 and P2. So once they pit, the positions will shuffle back to where they're supposed to be, and that's going to make them understand where their fight is, and that's going to be about 20 minutes remaining to fight for remaining positions on the grid.
Yeah, I agree. Newt has a 5-second gap on Afon and a 12-second on Wushel, but that's just due to the fact that, or on a 12-second on Raphael, and that's just due to the fact that the top two drivers have not pitted yet. Or I say that, but Sarah has now pitted from P1, so this will be for P1. We'll see where Wushel comes out. They are still in pit lane, and that is Newt heading out of the corner, out of pit lane. It's going to be close, I think. Here we go, heading into turn one. I think Wushel has it, but not by much. Yeah, here we go. Wushel is coming out of pit lane, and that is Newt right there on the long straight. There, Wushel is going to have the hotter tires. Newt's going to have the hotter tires and the better run out of turn one, heading down toward the Clark chicane. Wushel's going to have to play very defensive here, but that's going to be really hard on cold tires. You can see how late Newt is braking. They smell the blood in the water. Here we go, heading down toward the Osh chicane again. Like what do you do if you're Wushel? You're kind of left out in the open here. You've got Newt who's on fresh, hot tires, and you've just came out of pit lane with like half a second. The gap between you and your P2 rival, that's really bad. And that's going to be really unfortunate for Wushel. They're going to have to really drive this car to keep the position. And I don't know, it's going to be interesting. We're now through the Oshikane heading toward Senna. And you can see, look at the momentum that Newt is having. The tire advantage is absolutely, it's insane. But a little bit wide from Newt, that could save Wushel a little bit, but they're gaining, and it unfortunately means that Wushel's going to have to play defensive, which is...
Yeah, but it's not that much though, because you can see here Wushel's not too worried about them. Once your tires have warmed up, you don't really need to worry too much about it. That just means that Newt gets the tow. But I think Sarah also knows that so long as they push A1 behind them, they might have a hard time trying to defend P2 from A1. So it might be a bit of a strategy call to just, be there but not be there, kind of be in Newt's way, just so the A1 can catch up, and that's going to be a very interesting fight for the three of them. So we'll see how things go with 20 minutes remaining in this clock.
20 minutes remaining. Pit lane is officially closed, and everybody has done their pit stops. Wushel was the last to do it, and that means Wushel will have the tire advantage. As you can see, heading down to turn 1, they had a much better advantage, and that is a goodbye from Wushel. The power of the corner exit going into the long straight has saved Sarah tremendously, but they are still within the draft, barely, as we head down toward Clark. You're just going to have to, at this point, just try to break late as possible. As we can see, a little bit of a wiggle from Wushel, but not much, as Newt again just tries to maybe make another move.
Yeah, but A-Fon as well, as you can see here, the gap is closing in. It used to be 5-point-something seconds, but now it's 4.5 seconds. So Newt, currently, given that the gap in front is slowly increasing, that just means they don't get much toe. That just means they don't get much of a help from Wushel in front of them, and that's not ideal for them if A-Fon's pace is going to stay alive. So we'll see how things will go, but it seems though, through calculations from the back end, that in 3 minutes' time, should things don't go wrong for Wushel, we might see a championship win from Wushel, but there's still other places on the grid to fight for positions though. Xavier at P10, Luke in P4, those are still positions that they will have to fight for P2 and P3, as well as the other positions down further down the grid. So it's not done for the rest of them, but Wushel will get a good result if they stay alive in a bit.
Well, the point that I think we want to make here is we have, unfortunately, 3 drivers out, which means there are 16 drivers active on the field. Even if Wushel has a titanic death and is in last place by the end of this race, Wushel has secured the championship within 3 minutes because they will have completed they would have completed 75% of this race, and that will secure the points that they need to win this championship.
That is true, that is true. I forgot about the 75% rule. But yeah, staying alive that long, as well as just, I think Wushel also has given themselves a bit more of just, insurance by just, getting everything fixed, getting your tires changed right, fuel, just to make sure that you don't have any issues. And that has really shown to be beneficial, because right now, you're running away from Newt. 1.4 second is the gap right now, and that has caused Newt to not get much toe. And A-Fon though, right back at the back, closing in lap after lap. They just set a new fastest lap to 04.3 race pace, might I add. And right now the gap is now 4 seconds to the gap to P2, and it's going to be a really close fight for Newt and A-Fon Jaeger, closing in to 15 minutes remaining to this race.
But I will say this, if they keep this pace up, even if they actually have a chance for not only beat Newt, they do have a chance to beat Wushel should things go the way they do. And unfortunately, I think Newt kind of got compromised going out of the center chicane last lap, because they did have to deal with lap traffic. Following now with another battle, this is between Philip and Luke. And this is going to be a little bit interesting, heading down and out of the Osh chicane. HCDV trying desperately to get as far as they can up the field. This is for P4, and they just send it on the outside, block it on the inside. They're going to break late. Is it going to be enough? Yes,
it's enough. Yeah, it's definitely
Easy.
a good run from HD on the outside of those corners, but you can see here just pushing it as hard as possible. The last lap difference from Luke and Phil is just 204.7 and 206.3, so definitely more than a second difference, and Phil is just charging in, making sure they don't lose track of A-Fon in front, but that's P4 secure. Will they be able to secure for P3 if they're able to catch up? I don't think that's possible. 18 seconds to the car in front, and if A-Fon does pass Newt, there's going to be 18 seconds to Newt. I don't think you can catch up 18 seconds with this pace with 15 minutes remaining to this race.
Yeah, I agree. And it is now confirmed Wushel has completed 75% of this race. So that is now confirmed that Wushel has now officially won this championship. Unofficially won his championship. I apologize. I jumped the gun. You'll have to forgive me. But they have unofficially won this championship.
Don't curse her just yet.
Yeah, the race isn't
Don't
over yet.
commentators curse her just yet.
Yeah, let's not commentators curse this. Especially now that Wushel is not catching up to lap traffic. That, I believe, is
Adam.
Adam, yeah, that's gonna be
Uh,
Adam in front of him.
Yeah, so they've been pushing it so hard, but wait a minute, I think that was a little bit of a lockup from Bushel going into the Oz chicane. It's not going to do much, but they are definitely trying. As we here we go, round 2. This is between Suzuka and Chris. Suzuka sending it absolutely high on the outside. They're going to go on the outside and get to position. Lock it in, going into the Clark chicane, but then Chris absolutely sends it going into the corner. Oh no, they went wide.
They're in the grass.
They were in the grass and in the. I think they hit the wall. That was a move and a half, and I kind of foresaw that because they just cut the corner, and there was nowhere for them to go. But thankfully it was insane. But on a charge now is Afon. They are within 2 seconds of Newt. All they have to do, like, if they keep this pace up, I'm going to be real, they might even have a chance to catch up to Wushel at the very end.
Yeah, but the last lap difference is that Wushel is faster. Last lap, Wushel did a 2:05.0, but now a 2:05.9. Newt did do a 2:05.91, which is a bit faster than Sarah in front of them. Afon Jaeger, though, another fastest lap with 2:04.098. Just charging it at this point close to 2 seconds a lap faster than Adrian and Newt in front. So I think within a lap or maybe 2, they're gonna make an overtake should Newt if Newt gives in a bit too easy. So we'll see in a bit, maybe in 2 minutes time, maybe in 4 minutes time, we're gonna see a different position change, I'm assuming.
We'll have to see. Newt has every right to fight it though, so it could hold up Afon. We've seen that although they have the pace, it's just not really either had the luck or the I guess you could say the racing awareness as we head down toward the chicane, and that's a lot of traffic there. Newt having to go the eastwards line just to kind of get around them, and that is very unfortunate. I think Stewarts are going to highly on that, but it's like, where do you go? I think they had to kind of do that just to save themselves.
Yeah, that is true, but you also don't want to get advantage of that so long as they give the advantage to gain from cutting the corner. I don't think it shouldn't be a problem, but that's really up to the stewards' interpretation. But for now, going through lap traffic, that's just an unfortunate timing for them to show up with lap traffic. But the fight is still on though. The gap is now 1.6 seconds. That has definitely slowed down the charge for Afon Jaeger for P2, and Wushel right now a second behind, but the second is just the pace is just so close to each other right now.
Yeah, less than a second between Newt and Sarah in front. Yeah, it's Newt and Sarah in front. And I'm sorry, my brain shut off there. Less than a second. I think they also ran into a little bit of problems with that lap traffic. Times come in again. Afon with the faster times of the 3. It's actually reversed. It's Afon, Newt, and then Wushel. And at that point, this is going to make things very interesting, because not only is Afon on an absolute charge, they've got open air. The only two people that Afon sees in their windshield are the first and second place drivers, and they are absolutely going to try to do it as Newt gets that's a big wiggle from Newt. That's not good at all. Newt on the outside of the Clark chicane, and Newt, that's going to be an easy overtake by Afon. That's so unfortunate. They just went a little bit wide going out of Clark, and it just opened the door. There was nothing Newt could do. Even if they tried to fight it, it'd be riskier to fight it than to just let them by and try again. This is how close their times are. And this, if you think about it, kind of gives Newt a little bit of an advantage, because with Afon being the slightly faster driver, it almost feels like if Newt stays behind Afon, they could just catch up to Wushel that way and then fight it out at the end.
Maybe, but I think Wushel's going to be cursing a little bit as they be like, why did you let A1 go that easy. You're supposed to be my stopgap, and the stopgap basically has failed. And now it's going to be a very big charge from A1 for Sarah coming down, and Adam though fighting close with, I think that is William currently behind. So good overtake by Adam before the corner. So nice to see that they have made the corner stick, but the car has seen better days with how dirty it is. And the panels have been fixed, but with more door banging to come with 9 minutes remaining, there's definitely still more positions to be had should there be any cars remaining to overtake.
Yeah, 9 minutes on the clock left in this entire series. It's been a wild one. I gotta say, it's been an absolute wild championship. Even though I missed the round 2, I did watch it on my phone. It definitely was very interesting. As we follow along now, this is round 3 between Suzuka and Chris. Chris gonna send it on the inside.
Lock up.
Big lockup going into the corner. It's gonna give Suzuka the massive advantage going into the corner, but Suzuka's gonna back out instead. Maybe try to go for another power corner. Maybe try to go for them into turn 1 and just trying to set it up. But Chris so far has the position. Suzuka right there with him though. This is gonna be a round 3. 8 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's definitely a very close fight between the two of them, but Di Murcielago might have some small issues. Oh, side by side, who's this? There's Rafael on that's Luke. Luke's slowly dropping in the positions. They definitely do not want that. They definitely have points to be had with this race, so definitely want to stay alive. But it seems like it's gonna be the leader fight coming up here. 7/10 between the gap between P1 and P2. The A1's gonna be right there. The gap is closing down in the braking, and A1. Oh, the brakes are pretty strong on there, and they definitely have the brand exit usually. So Wushu's gonna either fight out extremely hard or just let them by just to win the race, the championship. So I think it's really up to what is in Wushu's mind right now with 7 minutes remaining. Do they want to stress themselves? Do they want to give up and just have a small cruise at the very end as a victory cruise? I think that's up to them to decide. It's gonna be, we'll have to see it in 7 minutes time, I suppose.
And we'll have to see A1 trying to redeem themselves after the horrible incidents at Monza to prove that they've got it. And look at A1 fighting this car going into Opel corner. It is everywhere. Oh, no, that's a lot of time lost going out of Opel. They're big wiggle, but thankfully they were able to keep it on the track. But that's going to be a huge sigh of relief from Wuschel, as now the gap is now over a second, and we're back to a fight between Parker and Adam. Parker going very wide, going on a turn 1, and so did Adam. And
it's Williams, that's not Adam.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a fight for them side by side. Oh, who's that behind them?
That's Jesper also for position. This is going to be very interesting. Heading down into Clark corner. Jesper with an absolutely amazing run. They able to get inside, head on the outside of Clark corner. Are they going to be able to make a move? That's a big lockup though from Adam. Is it going to be enough? Yeah, they're going to go on the inside, on the outside. It's going to be a side draft running race down toward Ost chicane. It looks like Jesper is going to have the advantage though, heading down toward Ost on the inside with the better entry. And so far, yeah, it looks like they locked it up a little bit, and now so far it looks like they're gonna go at it again. Here we go, heading out of Ost. It looks like Jesper may have the advantage. Yes, they do. They're able to get the move, but it's still on the outside. Looks like Adam's gonna try to make a move on the inside, heading into Senna. They're gonna break late, trying to set it into the corner, and they get the position. But Jesper and Adam, but unfortunately Adam goes wide, and now it's opened the door once again for William. This is the battle for 12th, three-way fight, as we see Adam trying desperately to hold on to that P13 spot and catch up for the mistake they lost on Jesper. That's contact! That's double contact, oh no!
Oh, that's unfortunate for the fight. It was going so well too, but unfortunately for William as well as Adam, that's gonna be Jesper Swingley sighing a sigh of relief. Oh, finally, P12 secured for now until Adam catches up. But there's going to be 4 minutes remaining to this clock. And A4 Jaeger back at the back of Sarah again. I got a feeling the arrow wash is affecting them pretty strongly. That or the target fixating a little bit too much, and they definitely have to clean their act up because they only had 2 and a bit more laps remaining to get this move done, or else they'll be in P2. And I think they are really trying to go for it. But how long will they keep it alive? Sarah, though, I think cool as a cucumber. That's gonna be a very easy run for them. But it's really up to Afon to not mess this up.
This is a repeat of the beginning of Monza, but unfortunately, I noticed that Wushel went a little bit wide going out of Clark. It's going to give Afon another huge advantage. It's also going to give Afon a huge advantage. That Wushel went into the dirt as Afon sends it into Ost, almost hitting the back of Wushel as they get squirrely going out of Ost. Wushel now running away with it again. It's these tiny mistakes that is preventing Afon from just getting that move done. They get so close, and then they just... I think it's just both the arrow wash and just, just trying to fight them. Wushel has just been keeping it clean and keeping Afon behind them, and it has worked perfectly for Wushel. They've got, again, like you said, 2 laps to do this. Afon is absolutely feeling the pressure as they head down toward the corner, breaking in late, trying to gain as much advantage as they can. It's going to be probably a repeat of last time, heading now toward the Opal corner, and oh, my breath hurts. I can't breathe.
I got a feeling that if I was Wushel, I'd smash the rear mirror off just to not think about it. But Wushel definitely has keeping it cool. It's really just Afon pushing it as hard as possible, and it's really interesting for all of us. It's definitely a stark difference compared to Monza last week. Even though the track is a bit longer, there is a lot of straights, but this definitely has bring out a lot of interesting fights with how narrow the track is, with how insane the chicanes are. Chicanes definitely do make up for a lot of chaos, but sometimes you really just want a clean race, and definitely not much of that gonna happen here if everyone trying to just stay alive. And staying alive do they do right now, and Afon just making sure they keep it within the draft distance. Currently the gap closing in closer and closer. It's just if they really had to figure out how they overtake them, or else Sarah's just gonna run away with basically a lap remaining.
1 lap to go, and again Afon having a little bit of a better exit going out of the Clark chicane, and it is actually a massive advantage. Look at this. Afon's going to try to make a move on the outside, setting themselves up. Are they going to try to break late and maybe go for the dive? They try, but it doesn't work. They lock up a little bit going out of Ost, but Wushel, I think, had a little bit of a worse exit. Another wiggle from Afon as they head out of the Ost chicane on their way to Senna. It's going to be close. Look at Afon. They're right at the back of Wushel, making a move on the inside. That's going to be the inside line. Wushel on the outside. There's nothing Wushel could do. Afon gets around for the lead.
It's good for now, though, but they might have a compromise exit. We'll see how Wushel reacts to that. But I think Wushel has decided to let them by voluntarily or involuntarily at that. But that's going to be Afon P1 and Sarah going to be P2. They might have another lap to go have a go at this, but Wushel, yes, if they think smart of it, might decide to settle down and get the win for this. But definitely might not happen, given that when you think about it, it is their home race. They want to win their home race likely, so they might still continue to fight, and the fight has continued. But will they be able to keep it with the Dodge in front of them?
The Viper doing everything they can to keep Wushel behind. It is getting insane as we head down the Opal corner. 1 lap remaining in this series. Can Afon hold on against our current unofficial champion in Wushel? Heading out of turn 1, it looks like Afon's got the corner nice and tidy. They've now just got to get to Clark, and it is getting pretty intense. Heading down into Clark, looking nice and tidy. It looks like Wushel's starting to lose a bit of distance. Heading out of turn 1, here we go. Heading toward Clark chicane. Nice and tidy. It looks like Wushel's going to try to make a little bit of a dive.
No, it stays alive, but currently the gap is still 0.5, though it's slightly increasing. I think the Viper just has a better top end speed here in this track, so Wushel might hold off a little bit, but so long as their braking is better. But it seems like Afon just has a better exit right now, so not the best strategy. It seems like that's not going to happen. The gap is increasing 7/10 now before the breaking point for Wushel, so I think that might have settled it. But things might have happened. Oh, it seems like A1 might have had a bit of a snap. 0.3 seconds. The gap is closing in. Wushel might have a move here, but so long as A1 defends it well, it might be a good thing.
A1 isn't defending it. A1 staying wide. Are they going to try to go for the move? No, Wushel's going to stay on the inside right behind A1. Heading down into the center chicane. One more long corner yet. Wushel goes wide. That's going to be huge. Here we go, heading down toward A-Gip. One more time around. Here we go, heading toward A-Gip for the final time. A1 doing everything they can. They got the line nice and tidy. All they have to do is survive 3 more corners. Here we go, heading down towards Sachs for the final time. Looks like it looks like they've got it. A little bit of a wiggle heading out of the corner, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Here we go. One more corner to go. A1 trying desperately to make up for what they did at Monza. More and more wiggles. We're just going to look at the inside. Here we go. One on one. Who's it going to be? It's going to be A1. A1 gets it at the last corner. There was nothing. Wushel almost had it. And A1 redeeming themselves from Monza with their win here at Hockenheim. Oh my god, I can't breathe in a pile of sweat.
That is the closest race that we have seen, and that's going to be the win for Wushel at the GT Legends Series. It's going to be Wushel in P1. I think that's going to be Luke in P2 coming down across the line at P5 right now. It has been insane.
Congratulations to Wushel. They are unofficially the champion of this GT Legend Series. Absolutely stellar job by her in keeping the car clean. An amazing, I gotta say, amazing job to A1. They had a bit of a wiggle heading out of turn 1, out of the last corner. It almost ended in tragedy for them, but they were able to use the advantage of the Viper and were able to keep the position. Congratulations to them. Congratulations to all of them. They kept it. This was an interesting race.
Definitely has been an amazing, interesting race. And just to recap right now, we had F1 Jaeger in P1, Wushel in P2, Newt finished in P3, Rafael Rodriguez in P4, Luke Parker in P5, and that has been the top 5 of this race. So it definitely has been an insane race for all the drivers that have been racing tonight.
Absolutely insane race. Almost. It almost ended in Wushel winning their home race, but it does not matter. They have currently they have won the championship. Once the stewards have officiated the final points tally, it will be official. But congratulations to Wushel. They have won this series, and they really just did it by keeping it clean. And they had an amazing race in both Road America. They ran away with it after having that amazing launch, and then at Monza, unfortunately, their only opponent was A1, and unfortunately, they just had an amazing race or a horrific race. But A1 was able to make it up here at Hockenheim. I think had they had not missed Monza, they would have been pretty much in contention to win this. That could have been for the championship, in my opinion.
Could have been, but it's all about what has happened and not what could have happened. What has happened as Wushel definitely has won, and it's going to be celebratory. Donuts from the Murcielago, from the German. Wushel finally having a good run, especially doing donuts on their home circuit as well, Hockenheimring. So congrats to the drivers tonight, and it has been amazing. I'm just going to enjoy ourselves here. Oh, as they get sent back into the pits. That has been a good run from the drivers tonight. That has been a good series. Do we know what is the next series that might happen for Simufur right now?
I don't know if I'm officially able to announce it.
I don't think that's
Yeah. Oh, before we get on to that, I've just been informed of the gap between Wushel and A1. 1/10. Literally 1/10.
Oh,
The gap between 1/10 between A1 and Wushel. That is insane. Absolutely insane. No wonder I'm a pile of sweat right now. As far as announcing the next series, I have a general idea. of what it's going to be. I'm super excited if it is what I think it is, but I don't know if I'm officially able to announce it yet. So yeah.
Well, if that's the case, why not the ones that have been on stream? If you really want to join us next race, why not join us on Discord? We have a Discord. That's where you're able to have us hang out with us, talk with the drivers. Maybe look out for what the next series might hold. We might be in ACC, we might be in AC, we might be in iRacing. We have had really good runs with all these different simulators. So it's been really nice to have a pretty thriving event team that has been hosting and making us have such amazing races. And the commentary team has been amazing. Thanks for being here, even though I have missed one round that I'm supposed to stand in. Thanks Alarm Clock for missing out on waking me up. But it has been nice to have fun.
Hold on.
We're gonna try to wrap up. Oh, what is this?
Oh, hold on. I have just been informed that I've been able to announce the next series for the Simufur series. It will be, we are going back to ACC. It's going to be GT3 Season 7. More details will be announced later in this week. We will hopefully be starting mid June, I believe, is going to be the announcement date. But I have officially been able to announce it. It is going to be Season 7 of the Simufur GT3 series. So be ready for that. And cannot wait for that. It is going to be a very interesting series. This will be our first ever ACC series with SimGrid. So, cross your fingers. Hopefully everything goes well.
We'll definitely have to see. But to wrap things up, it has been nice to commentate with you. The Wolfin as well as Paliku'i having a good running in the back, trying to make sure we have all the information ready at the broadcasting booth. And this has been Simufur. If you like what you've seen, you can join us on Discord. If you like to follow our socials, we do have a Blue Sky that you can follow us on. And if you like to support us, we do have a Patreon that kind of supports our server running costs. It kind of helps to make sure that we can able to do our broadcasting as well as maintain everything that we have had for the entire thing. But it has been nice. This is us signing off for the last time for GT Legends, and it'll be next time we'll be at the new ACC season. Not sure when, but if you want to do so to know when it is, it's going to be on our Discord, and we'll see you guys next time.